Hi guys, Dave Pinson here, Philippine Bible Ministry. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He makes me lie down in green pastures. So this has always been, that word makes, it's always been a stickler for me. What do you mean he makes me lie down? Am I not just going to go lie down in a green pasture? No, he makes me lie down. What does that mean? So then I was reading this morning it was D.L. Moody was talking about the Apostle Paul and his imprisonment was a blessing. So I want to talk about how is imprisonment a blessing? How can struggles be green pastures, right? So green pastures are places where you rest, right? You rest and you gather your strength and you do so you can get up and do God's will, right? So let's talk about John Bunyan first of all. So John Bunyan was in prison for 12 years for being a preacher without a license. Hard to believe that that's what happened, but that's what happened. One of the reasons I'm not a big fan of churchiosity in churches is stuff like this, right? Because he didn't have a license from the Church of England to preach, but he refused to not preach because he said God's called me to preach the gospel. No, you can't. You don't have a license. I don't. God doesn't say anything in the Bible about having a license. The government has no. This is the reason we're not registered here. Just so you know, even though we call ourselves a ministry, we are a ministry of God, but we're not a ministry of the Philippines. We're not a ministry of the United States of America. We're not registered because I don't personally. If you do, I'm not saying it's a sin, but I don't think religious. I don't think churches, I don't think gatherings, I don't think people should be registered with the state to be a ministry. I think that's probably a bad idea. Anyway, so Bunyan was put in prison, and so for 12 years. Now, I think his jailer became a believer. His jailer would let him go visit his family every now and then, and children were born. I mean, but he was in prison for 12 years. And what did we get from it? We got Pilgrims Progress. What a blessing that's been to millions. That people know about being steady and following God, and right. And then Paul the Apostle was a prisoner, and while he was a prisoner, he wrote the prison epistles. I forgot. There's many of the epistles. Most of the epistles. I know Romans wasn't. I don't think Timothy was, but most of the other epistles, I believe, they're all written while he was in prison. Maybe he would have never written those if he hadn't been put in prison, right? Right. And then there's the jailer with Peter and was it Peter and Peter and John, I think. Anyway, the jailer who got saved, and everybody in the jail got saved, right? People in China back in the day, I remember a story about this lady, this Christian lady was thrown in prison because Christianity is still illegal there. She was thrown in prison, and everybody in the prison got saved, so they had to kick her out. So how can a prison be he makes me lie down in green pastures? First of all, he makes me. So often, one of my takes on this back in the day has always been, well, if someone gets sick, then maybe they have time to sit and rest and trust and focus on God. Maybe if someone is dying, it puts their focus on God. Maybe there's a time. So how are those green pastures? They're not green pastures because this is where it's sort of like, this is my opinion. I don't know if it's real, but I think it's a good idea. They're not green pastures in the fact that this is a happy, there's a creek by me and I just get to rest. And no, that it's prison, right? But they're green pastures in the fact that you have to sit and that you don't have anything else to do. You have to like not get up and run around and go like Paul was going to this city and this city and this city and this city. Read the book of Acts. He went to this city and this city and this 12 years or whatever, 12, 14 years. He went to all these cities and did all this stuff and he's moving. You know, no, you need to sit down. And so what am I going to do? You know what? I'm going to write letters to these people. I'm going to, he's still doing stuff in his mind and he has to, that's why these videos exist, to be honest with you. Because the Lord brought me to the Philippines and I have no one to talk to here in English except my wife, usually, and there's a couple other brothers, Brother Tony over here. If you're watching, Tony, I love you, bro. But he puts me in a place where all I do is write, study, and do videos and do sermons and do Bible studies, right? But I have all this time in the morning, these 5 hours I carve out every day in the Lord, right? So those are green pastures where things are happening, right? So yeah, I think prison time. I think that was amazingly. The world was amazingly blessed by Paul's epistles, no? Amazingly blessed by John Bunyan, right? So I think those were green pastures because of what they produced, right? So that's all I got to say about that. He makes me lie down. Prison can be such a blessing, huh? Who knew? Count it all joy when you go through various trials and tribulations, right? God bless you guys. Ta ta for now.